Hello friends, and a warm welcome back to the Slow Living Collective, a podcast about slowing down, living seasonally and embracing an intentional life. I'm Amy, 30-something mum of two, homemaker, home educator and allotment gardener. These podcasts are love notes from me, sharing the things I sometimes need to hear myself. In these episodes, I'm going to delve into what it means to walk a different path, to stepping outside of societal norms and embracing the ever-ending beauty that it provides. From educating our children outside of the school system, living in a small home by choice, surrounding ourselves with a life of intention instead of living a life by default. I welcome you on this journey with me to open your mind to a different way of living. I hope you find what you are looking for within the words of these podcasts, and I hope that they speak to you in your own unique way. Hi friends, and welcome back to the Slow Living Collective podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest, and it's a first for me because I'm going to be hosting my first interview on this podcast. So I'm a little nervous, and I'm sure my guest is as well. And let me introduce her. So I am going to be talking to Talia in just a few moments, and we are going to discuss everything about slow living from her perspective. Talia is a great friend of mine. We have been friends for years. We met via Instagram, and we actually, unfortunately, I guess, had a multi-level marketing experience together too. We have been friends through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I wanted to invite Talia on as my very first guest because she loves the slow life as much as I do, and I wanted her to share her perspective on why slow living has made such a change for her. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's do my hair, then I'll feel better. Right. Okay, so hey Talia.
Hey you, how are you? It's been so long since I've seen you.
We talk all the time, almost daily. For those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Absolutely. So you know everything already, but for everybody else, hey, I'm Talia. I'm an illustrator from Ontario, Canada, over here with all the igloos. I'm a proud fur mama to my two cats, Felix and Prim, and our puppy Higgins. I grew up dreaming of being an artist, and I chose a little bit of a different career path to be a chef before life just kind of led me right back here. I spend my days making digital art for people all over the world, including Amy, for wedding invites to logos to children's books and pet portraits, you name it, I create it.
And we actually have a pet portrait of our little cat Beatrice, which Talia was very kind to do for us, and it sits on the shelf in my kitchen. In fact, if you watch my Instagram stories ever, you'll often see Beatrice her little portrait popping up there.
I love seeing her up there. It makes me feel so proud. I always try and screenshot everything.
So I know you're a big lover of slow and simple living, just like I am. What was it that started you on that path?
Oh my gosh, my health. More specifically, you've been along for the journey, but for everybody else, I'm disabled. I have scoliosis in my spine that affects my organs. I have fibromyalgia, which affects my nerves. And I have POTS, which means I like to faint sometimes and scare everybody around me. But I love to cook, and I actually was educated and working as a chef before I got really sick. So I took some time away from the long days and the stress of working in a kitchen to just kind of focus on myself and managing my health. After some rest and turning to the thing that made me feel happiest, which was drawing, I found that art was something that I could just do from anywhere, including from my bed. So my husband and I invested some money on some art tools and some courses, and I just got started. I wasn't sure if I would make any money. I never thought this could really be a full-time job. I just enjoyed doing it and kind of loved the odd commission coming in every once in a while. But about a year ago, I lost my grandmother, and I became very serious about this journey because she was a huge supporter of my work. I loved making and creating. And I just wish that I could put some of the stuff I've made right now on her fridge like I did when I was little. But, anyways, on my sick days, I tend to go all out on my art, and it's just kind of been taking off. Taking things slow and being myself and creating just felt like being in the kitchen of my dreams, but turning it into an art studio instead. So instead of being all sweaty and nasty, I now have a calm, cozy, healthy, artsy little life.
So I love what you said there about, just invested in some art tools and literally just started. And sometimes I think that's the hardest part of the process, is just getting started.
Oh, absolutely. I think the investment part was scary, especially for someone who didn't have a job and had this crazy idea of drawing for a living. It was absolutely terrifying, but I just had to trust my gut and I had pretty good support around me. So it just took off.
So, what would you say is the thing you enjoy most about slowing down and living more simply?
I think in the question is the answer, the slowing down and living more simply. I don't feel rushed or scared. I think what people don't understand if they don't work in an industrial kitchen, it's absolute and utter chaos. When you sign on for a job and they tell you that it's stressful, they want you to understand it's stressful. There are so many days where I was worried about if I added salt to a soup because I swore I tasted it, but wasn't entirely sure. I was worried about the menu. I was worried about if I ordered something. I was worried about if we sold enough of something. And that's just what I can think of off the top of my head. None of those things included worrying about the aspect of my physical health, right? Like thinking about my disabled body, the long hours, the heat in the kitchen, the way it affected my muscles and my bones, how long recovery took for me. But I was expected to just show up the next day and do it without consistent breaks or proper nourished balanced meals and doing it on little to no sleep, never getting out of my shift when I was done. Like, it was super overwhelming. Once I saw that living slow was something I noticed through you because of such a long friendship we've had, I thought, if Amy can do it, I can do it.
So, one of the things as well that led me to slow living, um, a long time ago, really, was when I ended up working as air cabin crew. And I worked as air cabin crew for a couple of years, but different to working in an industrial kitchen. But those long hours, those long days, I would work 5 days on earlies where I would be like at work at 5 a.m. And then on the flip side, a week later, I would be working till like 1, 2 in the morning. And the toll that that takes on your body is difficult and just hard in general.
I think people forget that we're humans and that, much like other animals in the world, I don't know, maybe you notice it in your cat, but I notice it in my dog. If it's a sunny, beautiful day and he feels good, he wants to be outside, he wants to roll around, he wants to be busy. But on a day when it's rainy or a day after he's had such a busy day, he sleeps the whole day. As humans, we aren't expected to do that. We aren't conditioned to rest. So to find a place in my life where I could just look at my job and, like you just said, look at your job and be like, absolutely not. This just isn't going to work long term, and make the hard choice to progress into something that fits your body and your needs. And I just couldn't imagine doing anything else. I love sleeping in. I love feeling rested. I love my long naps and extremely long walks with my dog and just the smell of fresh air and starting my workday at 10 a.m. Like, I just love the slow part of living slow. And I just couldn't imagine continuing right now where my illness is, working in these businesses that just don't offer me the slowness that my body needs these days.
And that's the same how I feel as well. Like, I could never be a mother and work in that job. I mean, I could, and people do, but it wouldn't be the kind of life that I would want for my children. And it would mean childcare at all hours of the day and night, and it would just be a very difficult situation. And while I definitely look back at that part of my life fondly, I also think sometimes I look back at it through like rose tinted glasses, because there were tough times being extremely tired, and yeah, it was a good job, but not forever.
I 100% agree. And whether you're making the changes in your life for your health or your mental health or for raising and starting a family, you have to get serious. And I think we're especially feeling it after that thing that happened in 2020, where we're all starting to take inventory of our lives and be like, could I do XYZ forever? And we're starting to realize, no, I couldn't do that job forever, or no, I couldn't push my physical body that way forever. So it's all about trying to figure out what's best for you, yourself, your future. And honest to goodness, I think we all need to slow the heck down.
And you made a really good point about what happened in 2020, because honestly, that was like the benchmark for me. And it was miserable for some reasons, but in other reasons it felt like this really great time, although that there's so much bad going on at the time. But also, you know just to be at home, to be surrounded by, at the time it was just me, my husband, and my little girl, because my little boy hadn't been born yet. And you know it just felt good to be home, and everything felt very simple. Baking bread, baking banana bread, like, all of these things that we did, just trying to do our grocery shopping. And how long can this last for, because it's very difficult to get like an online delivery at the time. All of these things really fed into slow living, and made me, I guess, more aware of, this feels a lot better. And while I don't want to live in a pandemic forever.
That's it. But that's what I'm saying, is a lot of us just didn't really understand what it felt like to slow down and stop until the world literally stopped. There was no whatever. There was nothing. And like you just said, these things that were simple and slow are the conversations of today and your brand. And I feel like when we were all forced into that, we all took that inventory and we all had to have that moment of, oh my gosh, groceries used to be like my escape from home, or my escape from the kids, or my escape from these things. And now it is a gut wrenching, anxiety inducing experience. It made us stop, it made us breathe, and it made us see where we needed to assess. And I think it worked out perfectly for me to kind of just like stop all the other crazy things I was doing in my life before 2020 hit. And then in 2022, launch all these big things, or 2021, pardon me, once we were simmering down from that magical thing that happened, and allow myself to just finally, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I'm going to embrace me and embrace the things that I wanted and take my illustration career off the ground.
And it's like, for me, the pandemic itself actually made me realize that I actually wanted another child. And it was funny because early in the pandemic, I was like,
you
being,
were absolutely dead set against it.
yeah, and being stuck at home with children. It was difficult. My daughter was only a year old, and so at first, I was like, haha, like nobody's going to be wanting having children, like that's already got children, because they're like, I'm not bringing another child in when this is already chaotic. And me and my husband always joke, there's a child's TV program called The Wiggles, and anytime it gets put on in our house, I'm like, no, 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 turn it off, because it just reminds me of like being quarantined at home. I can't stand it. I've got
That.
Wiggles PTSD or something.
And I think that's a reason why I have taken so much of this and just run with it, because if I'm going to be stuck at home, I want to be illustrating. I want to be drawing. I want to be connecting with people in the world who were also stuck at home.
Yeah, and I think coming out the other side of the pandemic as well, we sort of, for me at least, when everybody talks about, oh, we can go back to normal now, and I'm like, but what's normal? Because actually slowing down has made me realize that everything we were doing before was too much, and I don't want to go back to normal.
Remember when you started the pandemic? This is a friend moment for the people that aren't catching on. Um, remember the beginning of the pandemic when you weren't sure about having more kids, then you had more kids, and then you didn't want to stay at home with all these kids. And now it's all you want to do is stay home with all these kids. And it's just, I think this is a conversation again of repeating that we are embracing living slowly, because we know that when we were forced to do it, it was chaotic. And then all of a sudden, near the end, when the 2-week pandemic turned into almost a 2-year thing, we were like, oh, this isn't actually horrible. Do you know how much art I made in that time, Amy? You do know, you were there. The rest of the world doesn't, but I made so many wonderful things in that time because there was so much self-discovery and exploration time for myself. It just, oh, it was awesome.
Yeah. And I think when we look back at the pandemic, we'll be like, well, but also like it enabled us to embrace actually maybe who we were supposed to be. And it was just like maybe the little push that we needed. You're the creator and founder of Illustrated by Talia, an illustration business. How do you find living simply combined with being a business owner?
So yes, I am the proud owner and illustrator at Illustrated by Talia. I find it to be a lot of things. I find that running a business to be absolutely new and scary some days, most days. Marketing, money management, time management, these things that I just didn't have to do when I worked for someone else, I now have to take on. Finding my own pace and rhythm has really helped me a lot. I know that a lot of people show up to their jobs even now, and a couple minutes in, or there's those Monday jokes. I don't have any of those feelings anymore. I actually find that most days my husband comes home, I'm still working away. 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock. The end of the day has no end in sight because I'm just having a really good time. I can sit and just, talk to you guys about all the good things, but running a business isn't really all sunshines and rainbows. I know you know that all too well. You've run quite a few little businesses. You've worked for me over the years while I've launched things and done things. It's a lot. I can say that in comparison to working in a kitchen, or for you being in an airplane, the slow living, the taking breaks, the finding rest, it's honestly the dream. Finding these days, I actually start my work early, I end longer. I start my days with slow yoga. I know you love yoga too. That's actually why I started. I eat slowly. I'm really addicted to the yogurt bowl things you make, influencer life. But I've noticed that these things have really helped with like my digestion and my anxiety and getting my journal so that I can get all yesterday's thoughts out of my head and just dive in the morning and just be me.
Also, for those of you who don't know either of us that well, both me and Talia were part of a multi-level marketing company. And, being,
Mm-hmm.
being part of that is
Traumatizing.
yeah. And it also, it brings with it a lot of different ways of living, I guess. There's like this heavy promotion within multi-level marketing about time freedom and being your own boss. And I mean, actually being your own boss and running your own business is a thing, but multi-level marketing doesn't even touch the surface on those things. But multi-level marketing as well, apart from the fact that people don't make money in it.
No, we didn't make any money. We did make a cool friendship though. So
We did make
I'll
a
leave
cool
that.
friendship. Yeah. So, we have something beautiful out of it. But these multi-level marketing companies, they traumatize you, they make you work 24/7. There is no time for rest.
And I think that's the part that really bothers me, is that they advertise a lot of the things that you and I find big passion about, which is what drew both of us in. It's all the time freedom, money freedom, experiences and exploring and blah, blah, blah. Those are the things you and I value now. You playing with your kids, me taking Higgins all over the place to the dog thing and doing whatever we want to do. These MLMs advertise these things, but they didn't actually give them to us. And now you're, taking care of your kids and working with people like me and other creatives and other slow living families and people. Whereas you didn't actually get to do that. And you're right. These MLMs want you to work 24/7. You make no money. It's super stressful. It's constantly searching for documents and things to share and overspending and buying things that you don't actually get to enjoy. And I found that, like, leaving that behind for what the actual values are that hooked me in, and actually running my own business led me to the simple, slow, and patient life that I have now, so that someone like me who's disabled and creative could find a flow, still feel recharged, and take care of myself, do something I enjoy, but without the risk.
Absolutely.
So, the other thing that you and I talk a lot about is the difference and the separation between work and home life. And for me, I found that you and I actually prepped this question for our meeting today, but I find that in the conversation of multi-level marketing, there is no separation. It was constantly like, you can work from anywhere. And I did. I worked from the opposite of anywhere, which was everywhere. So for me now, I find that taking the space from these things, setting really clear boundaries, because I'm traumatized by those MLM experiences, setting zones in my house, allowing my ADHD to just like breathe, giving myself limits and restrictions so that I don't ever find myself overlapping activities or like making dinner while responding to DMs. I make sure that I run actual business hours from 10 a.m. to 1, have a 1 hour lunch, and then work from 2 to 5. I make sure that I spend time with my family. I connect with people where I'm not cold calling them or harassing them. I'm very much just showing the world what I have to offer when it comes to my art and my designs. And hey, if you'd like it, come on in. I tend to set really high restrictions on my emails and my DMs to make sure that I'm only answering them the first 30 minutes of my workday. And then I work the whole day without checking them again. I see you smiling. These restrictions have literally saved our lives. Like, you and I talk a lot during the day, but we also understand that, like, if one of us doesn't respond for a day or two, nothing changes in our friendship or our relationship or even the conversation. We just tend to pick up where we left off, because it's difficult when you're working from home, because I'm always here and I'm always available to everybody.
Yes.
So always being available to everybody is a really big problem with me. And I found that trauma working in MLM, because now as an illustrator, they all still text me whenever they feel like they can, 4 a.m., 2 a.m., all over the world, time zones. Even you're ahead of me in the time zone. So for me right now, it's 2 p.m. For you, it's what, 7?
Yeah.
So it's very different the way the world works. And we have to understand that taking that space and taking that time and separating your work and your home life is the difference between having anxiety in your home and having space in your home. So for me, it's very much about my husband and I having evening walks and going places on the weekend. And for you and the kids, I know that it's a lot about nature walks and forest school and taking plenty of breaks, making sure you don't overlap things, giving yourself time to recharge and collect yourself, and just change things up, set those boundaries, set those schedules, make the limits, be gentle with yourself, and just take care of your mental health. You can't be on to everybody all the time. And this goes back to very science me. You can't have your brain as a being on this earth accounted to everything else. You become overstimulated and exhausted.
And I think that's something that, throughout multi-level marketing, you have to be switched on all the time. And I think that also goes into a lot of what society is like now. We have all these apps and all these notifications, and anybody can reach you at any time of the day and night. I mean, one of the things that I do for boundaries is, I have to turn the notifications off on my apps. Otherwise, I'm going to get.
That's what I do too. That's why I said I do my check-in 30 minutes in the morning and then 30 minutes at night, because if those notifications are on during the day when I'm trying to draw or work, I become extremely tempted to check, and then my flow and creation pulls me away.
Yeah. It's something that I have found to be really, really beneficial, to my life as well. Just even though, I'm with the kids all day, I don't want my phone pinging and me to be distracted by that. And sometimes I do just want 5 minutes to just scroll Instagram or whatever. But you know, most of the time when we're out and about for the day, I barely pick up my phone. But and that's what feels good, because then I have that separation as well, that when they've gone to bed, I'm like, right, I'm just going to sit here
No
and scroll
rules.
forever. It doesn't have to be productive. I can just scroll Instagram and just, whatever. Watch weird people making weird TikToks, whatever. Read my emails, whatever. Just
It's a
relax.
lot about balance. I find that living slowly and the simple way of life is about balance. A lot of these CEO lifestyles and influencer lifestyles and all these things, kitchen jobs, airplane jobs, regular cashier jobs, no matter where you are on the scale, there is no balance. You leave work, they're emailing you, they're calling you, there's whatever. It's so chaotic that you have to set those lines in the sand and set that separation so that you know where you're at, how you're feeling, and those constant check-ins with yourself.
Absolutely. If someone was coming to slow living for the first time, what would your top tips be?
I love this. I think all of us should just stop what we're doing and just hop on the choo-choo train here. I would advise that this is an extremely major change and a huge jump. This is not a cold turkey thing. This is a not do it all overnight sort of deal. But I recommend you try to do one or two things in your life that feel chaotic at a time. I would try and find a way to slow them down, try a different routine or regimen. I find that if your work is chaotic, maybe you should find a new job, find something you enjoy more with less crazy impact. If you're finding that your routine's a disaster, start over. That's where I started. I start with my morning routine. I went from a very chaotic morning routine where I rushed out the door. I was all over the place. I forgot to eat. I don't even remember if I ever packed a lunch or anything. And I just rushed through my whole day until it was over. And then I was so wound up, I never could come down from my day. So now I've changed that to a journaling practice, filling up my water, walking my dog slowly, eating a nutritious breakfast with balance and fruit. Hello. Making sure that I'm getting all the things my body needs to start the day so that the rest of the day becomes an easy flow to me rather than falling apart. A lot of those things that I've learned, not to toot your horn, have come from you. And my favorite breakfast in the world has come from you, with the breakfast that is like the yogurt, the granola, and the strawberries or blueberries. Absolute favorite. I now eat like a child because I see you post it all the time. But taking those things and adding them to my life felt like a lot easier than taking something away. I think that's something that we have to talk about too when it comes to slow living, is adding is easier than subtracting. You know what I mean? Like they talk about this in all kinds of regimens and routine books that I've read, where it's easier to like associate your morning with when you do yoga than it is to just take away something in your life. I find myself doing these kinds of things and then they became so organic and natural. Now I just wake up and everybody in the world and in my life knows now that I need like an hour. Everybody knows not to message me before 10 a.m. unless the world is on fire or someone's dead. I'm serious, because to me, my morning routine is so sacred and something I never had. I think that is one of the top tips, is to just take your time, subtract something that's difficult, add in something that's more simple, easygoing, and do it a little bit at a time, making it bit by bit, a little bit at a time, makes it just flow nicer.
I definitely find the same with my morning routine. And what I've noticed more recently is I really appreciate my morning routine and how slow it is and how I've been able to do that, particularly because I now take my daughter to forest school on a Friday and I have to be there ready to start at 9:45. And oh my gosh, trying to get everybody up out the door with the right socks on and that I've got everything. Like I have to really prep the night before. And while I can do that, obviously, I just find like it's just a bit of a stress. And it's great for my daughter, and we do it because it's great, she loves forest school. But that moment of trying to get everybody up and out the door is just stressful, and it always reminds me, so we do forest school on a Friday, it always reminds me that like my life used to be like that every single day. That
Isn't that crazy? Like, I think the thing that's so funny for me too right now is that exact thing, where if my husband's family has something going on, it's always like a breakfast. And I'm like, guys, I can eat breakfast here. Like, my brain just doesn't understand that now life, when you do have to set an alarm, or when you do like, I like waking up early just because I love my walk with my dog when the sun's just kind of peeping up and over, and I get to say goodbye to my husband and whatever. But when you are forced into your old routines for forest school for you, or for a family thing for me, or a health, my biggest thing is a doctor's appointment. When I get into a specialist because of my health, they never let you book it for afternoon. It's always like 9:15 or 8:25, or right when they open at 8. So I find that if I have to wake up earlier than what I'm used to, it messes with my evening routine. I've become so comfortable in the calm stillness of my little itty bitty small routines throughout the day, of like what lunch is like, what breakfast is like, what bedtime is like, what my morning is like, that when something interrupts that, I am reminded, like you said, that was a good word. I am reminded at how horrifying life was before that, because it just took the life out of me.
and
It makes you exhausted. I know you're a totally different person. I don't think I've heard from you on a Friday night in months, actually, to be honest, now that we're talking about it, because it just feels like you're tired, your kids are tired, you're overwhelmed, your schedule's been interrupted. It's a lot. And I find that doctor visit days for me, by the time it's lunchtime, I haven't had my morning routine, because if I would like to have my morning routine, that would have to start at 5 a.m. Guess what I'm doing at 5, Amy? You know, sleeping. We're getting up because it's 10 a.m. for you, but I'm still asleep here in Ontario. So I just couldn't imagine, like you said, still doing that every day.
Yeah, being reminded about it just makes you realize like how big the changes are that you've
That's
made.
what I'm saying, right? Like, taking your time, breathing, doing it in little bite-sized pieces. Like, maybe you take an afternoon job so you can have slow days, but you just cannot live all of your days on this earth rushing around all the time. There's no need to rush.
I know, and obviously there are going to be some people that they have to work a 9 to 5, and the flexibility isn't there. But there is still ways that you can adjust your routines so that you can have that slow start to the day. Okay, it might mean you have to get up a little bit earlier, but taking those moments to do the things that really do bring you joy, whether that's journaling or eating breakfast together as a family, or with your husband, wife, partner, just doing those things that sort of make that slow routine and make you feel more refreshed and ready to take on the day. Because there, when you work in a 9 to 5, and so many people have to, it's not just the job itself, it's the commute and everything that goes along with that. And so there are still ways that you can live slowly and simply around that. And not everybody has the flexibility that we're lucky enough to have.
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying, right? If it's a job that's too high stress, are there other jobs you could do that are less stressful? If it's your morning routine, change your morning routine. Taking, like, that's my biggest advice to your question, is just what are the little pieces that you can change? If your morning commute sucks, find a playlist that makes your day just like bomb. If
Mhm.
your evening bedtime routine involves screaming children, Amy, and just like complete chaos and disarray, open a bottle of wine, baby. Like, find, this is another R word, maybe not routine, because you know what? A lot of people can't find routine in their life because they do have kids. Kids don't follow a routine, they just do whatever they feel, right? Animals, they don't follow a routine, they do whatever they feel too, right? So if you can find one of my favorite words, ritual, if you can find a ritual of like listening to that podcast on the way to work, or that good playlist, or you know what I mean, having a hot bath at the end of the day, find those little pieces, take the big things and break them down. So work and the commute, awful. but could I put on a good song that makes me feel good? Everybody's got a song that makes them happy. Could you find something that brings you joy in your day to just slow down and breathe and get through it? Because like you said, not everybody has the flexibility, but you've got to find those little bite-sized pieces to slow the heck. I'm going to write a book and call it Slow the Heck Down. I'm dead serious. I am starting today, but it's true. Like, you have to just find that. If you don't, you're going to run your whole life on empty.
And it's about being mindful in those moments as well, because we can rush through, just trying to get to the next task, because that's how life is a lot of the time. And just getting through things quickly. On a Friday morning, I have to, has everybody been fed? Do we have everything? I've got to get to forest school and I've got to get there on time. And sometimes it's just taking like a few mindful minutes. I always take my coffee with me in the car, and just as soon as we park up, I just sit and drink my coffee. I wish I could take 2 coffees with me, but
Make it 3. I think another one of the notes that I wrote down for this question was breathing. And I don't think that we do it enough. I know that it is something that our body scientifically does involuntary, meaning it just happens on its own. Without thinking right now, we are all breathing, at least the ones listening to this. We're all breathing. We forget that you have to actually be mindful about the process and the practices. Sitting down and journaling in the morning isn't always easy for me, because sometimes the day before was absolute garbage and my brain is like, I don't want to sit and think about it. And I'm like, we need to put it somewhere. So we have to. The mindful process of just like, my dog just ate something outside. Fabulous. I could get worked up, or I could be like, oh, well, and keep on walking. Like, there's just, you have to find those moments. My cup of tea in the morning is a sacred ritual that my husband knows on Saturday and Sunday when he's home from work, that if he shall interrupt this process, which took some time to learn, he shall have a rough day. Not in a mean way, but like in a truly, I need that 20 minutes of my journal, my tea, looking out the window, just reset. Because I don't always sleep well. I don't always feel well. And sometimes the mornings are garbage, like I just said. So having that moment and those mindfulness, like getting to forest school, chaos. But that minute to just sip your tea in your cute little thermos mug that I adore allows you to just go, okay, I got through it. Now on to getting my son home and playing with my son until like the time is up. Like, breathing, taking your time, taking those little bite-sized pieces. Those are the tips I would give to people that are looking to start slow living practices that may or may not be able to fully jump in like we have.
Absolutely. And I think as well, just finding those tiny small bits in your day, it can really make a difference. And you said about having your tea on a Saturday and Sunday morning. I am the same with my coffee on a Saturday and Sunday. It's the only days of the week that I don't have like, sole responsibility of the children. And, my husband is downstairs with them. And I just like to be able to drink a coffee and nobody's asking me questions.
Well, isn't it bliss? That's why I go take care of the dog and I come in and I have my tea. A lot of the times too, Sunday morning starts with my husband doing all of his cleaning and laundry and chores, and I am awake. I spend 45 minutes guilt-free just watching him, like, what are you doing? Because I need that time to start my day, and I can't imagine a world where I don't do that. And actually I can. I've been there. I'm angry, I'm irritable, I'm frustrated, I'm exhausted, and I'm sore. Nobody wants to hang out with that person. And that's not mean. That's the truth. If you're not taking time to recharge and take care of yourself and having those little moments, it's never going to happen for you. And it's like, one of the other things that you and I talked about was what your ideal day looks like. Not every day can be ideal. Like, that's something that I think you and I need to break the stigma on, as you a mom and me as someone who's disabled. Like, not every day is ideal. Of course, I'd love to be like at the craft store, going for picnics, going for hikes. Not every day am I physically able to do those things. Not every day are you able to just have a cup of coffee. Absolutely. So finding those moments, making them sacred, taking a breath, and just getting through it. I don't think people understand. When our phone is dying, we plug it in. When we are slow and empty of our battery, we never plug ourselves in to recharge. And it's so important.
I find as well, like when things have been heavy or hard, I've had a hard day, you know, I'm irritable, I've got a short fuse, and that sort of spirals out into the rest of my life. So just taking some time, I'm understanding even more when things happen that, just sort of tip me into anxiety or make me irritable, that actually it's something that I need to take a bit of time to just decompress. Sometimes I'm very introverted, and I really recharge by myself. And so sometimes, I'm with people all day long, little people mostly, but I need to take time to just decompress, nobody talk to me for a minute, and then I feel better.
I agree. And I feel like for me, when we were talking in the beginning of this episode about kind of how I got started here, I feel like when I realized that my health was leading to like extreme like issues and disabled behavior and things that I had to deal with, I kind of forgot that the rest of the world was just out doing their thing. Like, I think I had to remind myself that it's okay that I stop. It's okay that I slow down. It's okay that I rest, even when nobody else is doing it. And you're right. The days that I don't, I'm just not myself. And I have to be. And especially as a creative person, I have to make sure that my mind is right. Yeah, sure, like some of the best art is made when you're depressed or angry or sad. But the work I do is like for children and for people's pets and for families and for logos, for people who are starting new businesses or have businesses. Like my job's pretty joyful. So if I'm walking around a miserable potato, okay, Amy and I love the potato analogy, running around being a miserable, crusty couch potato, okay? I can't be a creative person when I feel that way. I can't be a good wife when I feel that way. I can't be a good daughter or sister or aunt when I feel that way. So it's so, so important that I have the right mindset so that I can be creative, so that I can have my job and also be a good human to the humans in my life. And I think that's a lot of what you just said about being a mom too, right? Like you can't be a good mom to the extent that you want to when you're feeling that way.
Absolutely. And I find as well now I'm, embracing that I'm going to stay home with the children full time. And, some of those things that I do around the house, my husband, our split in our chores has always been very equal. But I enjoy doing those things, taking
Me
care of
too.
our home, organizing the kitchen. Like every morning, I'm like, I'm back here again. We were having a joke the other night, like, you can clean the kitchen and then you only have to live in it for a few hours and it's like everybody's messed it up again. But it's doing those tasks with intention, and, I try and think about them less as, oh, I need to do the chores, and more, finding the joy in doing those. Like,
I love that. I love that. I love that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it just, I love that. I love my back cannot handle a lot of the physical stuff. So on the days that I feel healthy about it or feel well enough to do it, my husband often gives me crap because he likes to do that stuff on the weekend. He loves his vacuuming on Sunday. He loves his laundry Saturday morning. I know every Saturday I've got clean clothes. He loves those things. And I'm very much a dishes gal and whatever. Like, just like you, my husband and I have found the space of you do this, I do this, and then I don't have to worry about you, what you do. You don't have to worry about I do. But nobody can sit here and say they love their chores. Like, sure, we enjoy some of it, but nobody loves it. So finding the intentionality and just the ability to like break it down is just incredible, because then you can, like, I'm doing the dishes listening to the best music because I like music and I don't love the dishes, but the dishes have to be clean to eat. And I love to cook. So it's important that I do that. And my husband knows that I take care of the day dishes when I'm home, and then I make dinner and he takes care of the dinner dishes. Like, you just have to find the flow. You just have to find the space and how you work things to make it so that everybody's comfortable and happy and that you're taking care of yourself and moving slowly. I think that that's such a big thing, is keeping an open mind, having the intentionality and the complete mindfulness while doing even the hard things.
absolutely. So if you could have your ideal slow day, what would it look like?
I love this. Oh my goodness. Okay. my brain's like, go slow, but also how far can I go with this? Because I want to have all the activities in one day. I love a good sleep in. If I could just, I mean, a good duvet morning, just, oh, I don't even have words. It's so good. I would love a long, sniffy walk with my dog. Although walking the dog is a chore, like we were just talking about, I absolutely love being outside. Get a look around, have things, around me, check out the world. A big breakfast. Like I want toast, I want hash browns, I want like an English muffin with my toast apparently, some waffles, like I want all the fruit. I just want to like pick apart all the pieces and enjoy to the max. I don't want to be bothered while I eat, which as a mom you get that. I want to go to the garden center. There's just something about the dirt and the smell. Garden center all year round, pick up some plants. I would love to hang out at the craft store. I always find a new hobby to like tinker with when I get home. Oh my gosh, a picnic with my dog, a good hike. Literally, again, all the activities. I would probably end the day more slow with a nap, a good movie, a book, some time with my family, maybe a barbecue. I'm a sucker for a barbecue, a cup of tea. Just like if you threw a bubble bath in there, sold the whole day, sold. What's your ideal day?
So I reckon my ideal day would definitely start with coffee. Definitely start with
Me with why? Let me interrupt you. Why is it me, the Canadian, who really just would love a cup of warm tea, and you? We know where you're from, okay? If you want coffee every day, what about a spot of tea? What
I
is
know. I tell you what, I'm going to say something really controversial now. I don't really like tea.
the queen is just rolling over in her grave, Amy. Okay, so you started it with coffee. You've offended the nation. What's next?
So yeah, I would have a coffee by myself. My husband would be with the children. And yeah, just a slow morning, maybe some reading, maybe something I really enjoy is creating content. And I really do enjoy that, and I see that as my hobby. So maybe a little podcast, I don't know, creating. I enjoy creating. Then definitely some time at the allotment. We've had an incredible first year on our allotment, and I've got lots to do over the winter, but yeah, just hands in the dirt, kids playing, hopefully, like, the little one, he's just walking, so it's chaos again. But just being on the allotment together, and we always take lunch and take some good snacks and just hang out there, maybe come home. I love doing stuff around my house. It is one of my passions. If I'm at home, I'm doing stuff around the house, whether it be putting a shelf up, moving furniture. I'm always doing something. My husband knows that if I get up on a Saturday morning and utter the words, "So I've been thinking."
It's a DIY kind of day. I know you because if I get a text, so what do you think about this? ... And then it's like boop, 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 uploading images. And I'm like, oh no. And then the worst part is then 3 days later, I'm looking at my husband going, so I was thinking. And then I get out my iPad and I get all my design technology downloaded. And I'm like, so we're going to do this, this, and this. And my husband is looking at me just trying to enjoy a beer at the end of the day. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's 10:30 at night and I'm painting the walls. Like I love a good DIY project. And I think that like a lot of these things sound like chores, but you and I just find so much joy in them.
I know. And the amount of times that I've been like, okay, I'm gonna repaint this room, and then like I'll be telling you like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm painting this, and what do you think about how that looks there? And then I don't know, 24 hours later, you've sent me like 3 videos, and you're like, and I'm thinking of moving that over there. And
We are horrible. We should not. Oh man, we are always formulating plans. And I think the best part about that is they don't harm anybody. We're just making our space livable and comfortable and safe. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if I could show the world what my kitchen looks like right now, it's chaos and I can look at it from where I'm sitting. I got this paint that I thought was like a celery kind of green. It's 100% yellow. And I tried to make like, those things that are going around right now. This is a completely off topic, but the artist in me needs to tell you. I'll send you pictures later if I haven't already. But I kind of took like a really thick paintbrush and just put swipes on the wall with distance between them, because I was going to try and make my own wallpaper, but you painted on, because I am crummy at wallpaper. Yeah, it's not really going well. And it's been like that for about 2 months. And I haven't quite figured out what I would like to do with it yet. But I'm telling you, one of these Sundays, I'm going to wake up and you are going to get a text and you're going to see what I've done. Because I don't know, there's just something about, no matter where you are in life, just taking pride and taking a moment to just enjoy it.
Yeah. And, like, I always think, my home, it's small and I just love it. I just love everything about it, and just finding ways to like be creative with the space that we have is something I really enjoy as well. So yeah, although we went off topic, that just doing
If
around the house.
listening, not looking at the show notes, that is what your ideal day for slow living looks like, where Amy and I are doing all the DIY activities and drinking warm drinks that don't fit the nation we live in. And then talking to each other about it. So that's our idea of a slow day, and avoiding all the responsibilities of taking care of our children that are human or furry.
Yeah.
That's our ideal day.
Somebody else is doing that job and we are just chilling out.
Responsibilities, we're going to have a good time and drink drinks.
Yes. What would you like to embrace next when it comes to living simply or slowly?
I think this is a great question, mostly because I'm a resource junkie, and like I have spoke to the world about, I'm an Enneagram 5, so I love information and resources. So any way that I can like follow someone new, or try to find something to experiment with or play with, or just soak up new resources, have a collection of these things so that I can continue to find simplicity and calm in the things I do in my life. I don't know. I just find that version of me has such perspective about everything that it allows me to just kind of feel everything and see everything and take everything, no matter what I'm doing, the circumstances, just makes sense. So it comes out with like proper answers, and just, I don't know, I feel more centered, and I understand myself more when I'm checking how other people do things and making sure that I'm kind of on the same page, and using the way that they do things as a guideline to like, hey, why don't we try this next time? Like some of the things that I see people make or cook, or how they draw, or their creative process, or how they take care of their pets or their home or their partners. I love that stuff. The more resources I have, the more I can kind of dive into it. What's next steps for you?
As I was listening to you, actually, I was thinking like that is how I feel, like just finding other people that do the same, and just being inspired by what they do. And it can be things that are really, really simple. Like earlier you said that your favorite breakfast is now the breakfast that I was sharing.
I love my granola yogurt berry breakfast.
So it's just finding those things that just inspire me, really. So just keep, I guess, going along this route of living slowly and simply, and being inspired, trying different things, and just see where it takes us, really.
I love that. It looks like we have a very exciting life ahead, and I am ready to have you be there with me.
Yeah. Okay, so lastly, where can people find you online?
I am an Instagram junkie. When I am avoiding all the rules that I set for myself on a daily basis and being a bad girl on the weekends, you can find me on Instagram. You can follow Illustrated by Talia. In between each one of those words, there's an underscore. So check me out. You'll see all kinds of animal portraits there. You'll be able to keep up to date on my children's book illustration work, my creative process, and of course, my furry pals. You'll even get to see Amy's friendly face sometimes in my stories or on my posts. She happens to be there a lot, helping me get through regular everyday life things.
And I will tag you in the show notes and in the description as well, so people will know where to find you too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I would love to say I'll see you next time, but I'll probably see you in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and being my first guest. We got through it together.
Kinks, but we made it, and I'm so happy I got to experience this with you. I can't wait for everybody to get a chance to hear it and see what they think.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
When we finished recording this podcast, Talia and myself, we just sort of went over how much fun we really had. This was a real learning experience of us learning how to podcast together and talk back and forth, and we realized that we really enjoyed it. Now, this place is always going to be here. It's my baby. This podcast is my baby, and I am so excited to share more in the future. Talia and me decided that maybe we should start a little podcast together. It's going to be different than what I have here, and I'm so excited to do something and collaborate with Talia on this. You can find us on Instagram at Slow the Heck Down Pod, so be sure to go and follow us there, and we'll let you know when we are going to be launching our first episode. I can't wait to continue sharing here. I have so much exciting stuff coming your way. But not only that, I'm really excited to collaborate with Talia too. So be sure to check us out, and I'll let you know when the new podcast is available. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast. I'm so beyond grateful to have you here. Community is so important to me, so I would love to chat with you over on Instagram. You can find me on my account, Life on Plot 44. My podcasting friends have always told me podcasts live and die by their reviews. So if you're able to leave a rating or a review on mine, I would appreciate that so much. And of course, if you're able to share what I do here on your social platforms, I would be so grateful too. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll be back soon with another podcast.